Alrighty guys, welcome back to another LEGO set review from BrickByBrick, and today we have set number 75187. This is the BB-8 sort of UCS set. I mean, it has a plaque and everything, but not officially branded or labeled as UCS. It contains 1,106 pieces and retails for $99.99. And this was released quite a while ago, actually. It's a really long shelf life, much longer than normal. It was released in 2017 in the August wave, as part of the, actually, I don't know if it was August, I think it was September maybe, but it was released as part of the Last Jedi assortment of sets, the first wave of Last Jedi sets, and, you know, it was always a pretty cool looking model. This is the first time that they had gone back into making sort of larger scale buildable character style sets since the days of the Darth Maul and Yoda statues from the early 2000s, and yeah, this was a pretty cool looking set to me, and I didn't end up picking it up until LEGO themselves ended up discounting it 40% on Force Friday 2019, so it has lasted a full 2 years at the very least, and you know, still not retired. And as you can see, the model is pretty substantially sized. There's a single instruction booklet, and you know, it's actually a little bit smaller of a size than I've come to expect for $100 sets recently, but you know, I mean, it's not hard to read or anything at all. And before we take a look at the BB-8 model itself, let's just take a look at the little display stand that it comes with. And you know, on there is a little place to pop a BB-8 minifigure, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. And there's also this little UCS style plaque, which has a nice sticker on there. It's, you know, a little bit tedious to apply that, but it does look pretty good. And honestly, if you don't like it, you can just remove it completely. Like if you just pull these plates off, it's not too difficult. And you could even go a little bit further with that and, you know, just have that there. But you know, this is a nice look, and you know, you can angle it up and down however is best for you. And right here, this section, you know, is designed to firmly hold BB-8 on there. You really don't need it to display BB-8, and BB-8 doesn't really want to fall over too easily on its own, but you know, it is possible to get it to sort of roll a little bit, and maybe you don't want that, so in that case the stand is a little bit helpful. But overall, I think the stand just helps make it look a little bit more like a collectible. The BB-8 figure is the same BB-8 that's been in every single set since The Force Awakens. It's included BB-8, except for the LEGO Star Wars Resistance TV show based Major Von Reg's TIE Fighter. That one has a slightly different print on the head with a larger, more cartoony photo receptor. But other than that, all of them have been exactly like this, and I mean, no complaints really here, because it's really well done, but you know, it's just not a huge draw to the set, and definitely not the cheapest set that he comes in. I think he comes in a $30 set, I think that's the cheapest. But here we go, let's take a look at BB-8 in his full glory here, and it's a pretty, like, sizable build. It's got a whole Technic frame on the inside, and it's, like, it's pretty dense and, you know, full of mechanism, and you know, the like edges here, you basically build around a Technic frame and you put on these 4 sideways sections. They're not super easy to pull off, but I believe this back one might come off somewhat easily. No, they're really kind of stuck in there, but yeah, so it's difficult to pull it apart and show you, but they, you know, they all have the same sort of similar structure. Creates a sphere pretty well, and yeah, it's covered in studs, but I think that works in this case. You know, it looks like a LEGO model, which is cool. And the base is, again, one of those same kind of builds. They didn't screw up the detailing on the bottom. You know, they didn't just make it completely flat. They did add some tiles here, like they used tiles instead of plates with studs on this very top layer, so that it will sit perfectly flat, and you know, it works pretty well. It doesn't want to fall over unless you intentionally push it over. And speaking of intentionally pushing it over, you can actually get it in sort of a rolling pose, like that. If you want to lean it in this direction, it may want to flop over completely. You know, that's a possibility. But, you know, if you're careful with it, you can get it to position like that, which could be a cool position for display. And this is actually how they show it on the front of the box. That's the closest you can get to actually rolling it, though, because, you know, it is just a sphere and the head is stuck to one side, so you can't actually roll the whole thing. I guess you can kind of roll it sideways if you wanted to, but that's not very effective. So, you know, essentially you can't really roll it, which, I mean, makes sense. You know, you'd need to have like a whole magnet system in order to get the head to stay where it is. But speaking of the head, also, if you've noticed, all of these sides have slightly different builds, which, you know, just a nice attention to detail. This back one does absolutely nothing, but all of the other ones do have a little feature. So we'll start with this one over here with the gray. They actually have these stick out, which is nice, because what you have to do with this one is spin it, and this moves the head all around, and the build for the head in there is really interesting. It's sort of a free-floating mechanism, but there's a rubber band in there that wants to keep it snapped to the very top. So when you turn it around, it will move back and forth in addition to rotating, which is nice. And then, you know, if you do it very slightly, it'll just wobble its head around. It just kind of makes it feel a little bit more alive and a little bit more like BB-8 than, you know, if it were to just do completely, you know, just plain old rotation. I guess while we're rotating the head around, though, you can see that it is built up pretty decently around all the sides. You have the antenna up here on the back, and the side's little plate, and then you have the little photoreceptor here, as well as the sort of eye, and then that there. You know, it's got a good amount of detail and compares favorably with the head of the actual, you know, minifigure scale version. The front section here is actually tied to the other feature of the set, which is that you can open this up, and out comes this little thumbs up lighter. It does a little bit, this section here, like having this thing that pops open, looks a little bit weird. It's like a little bit bulky compared to in the movie, but the actual lighter itself is pretty cool. It uses one of these Nexonites spear tip pieces in transmedium blue, which is an exclusive color to the set, and you do get an extra of this piece. And it's just kind of cool, but the way that this works is inside there's a whole gear system, and it moves this rack gear forward, and yeah, it works pretty well, pretty effectively. The only complaint that I have is it doesn't automatically pull this back in. Which you do have to close it yourself, and it's also not a case where you can, you know, close the feature by pushing this in. It will get stuck. You can, I guess, manually push that in, but you know, you can also do this backwards. And if we open this up, you can see a little bit more of the interior of the model with all those colors and technic elements. You can see sort of very slightly that gear in the background. That's part of the feature that allows the head to spin. You know, you can see the gear sort of moving in there, and it is very complex. And if you have any interest in the build process of this, which I like the build process of this a lot, if you have any interest in that, I would recommend checking out the instructions of the set, which you can download from LEGO's website. The head is also just simply attached with that one Technic beam, so if you wanted to see a little bit more of the mechanism, you know, as you turn this side thing, this will move back and forth and inside through that hole that's geared up to the side, and, you know, also allows it to spin. So it spins just like that, and it's a cool feature. I like it a lot. But you know, that's pretty much all for the features of this actual thing. And overall, I gotta say that this is a really fun model. You know, I mean, it's just sort of a display piece, but like this feature here really makes BB-8 feel alive, and I think that this was captured perfectly, and it's probably the best thing they could have done for a LEGO buildable BB-8 set. And I think appearance-wise, it just looks nice on display. It's not the most smooth or rounded, especially around the head. Some of this is a little bit weird, but like, I don't know, it feels like the perfect LEGO interpretation of the character. I'm sure several years into the future, once a couple more new pieces have been introduced, maybe in 10 years, they'll be able to make a better version of this BB-8. Maybe they will be able to get the head shaping a little bit better with some newly introduced part that maybe curves around and is tangent to that curve. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see if they ever attempt to redo this. But I do think that for what this is at this time in LEGO's history, this is a pretty perfect set. It did actually even go on to win some Toy of the Year award in 2018. I think for Best Construction Toy or something. And, honestly, I think that this is one of the best Star Wars sets that has been released in recent years, and definitely the best of the Last Jedi sets. And it seems to have inspired a whole little range of buildable characters, as we do have the Porg that came out the summer after, and now in the summer 2019, or I guess fall 2019 wave, we have the buildable Yoda, and both of those look cool as well. So I don't know, maybe I'll end up getting caught on to collecting these, so we'll see how that goes. But this is really cool. I like this a lot, and it is, I believe, sort of in scale with the other two. The Porg might be a little bit large, but I think this is in scale with Yoda at the very least. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye, everyone.